OBS reporting good output quality. Jumping over to Twitch, checking audio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sounds okay to me. Jumping over to YouTube, checking stream health there, reporting excellent quality. Looks good there. Back over to... We need to do the pop-out chat real quick. There we go. Appropriately, back to Twitch so I can see both chats. We need to pull up my channel link. Copy. And actually, there's gotta be a better way to share. Okay. Either way, close that. Jumping over to Discord. On somewhere. Over. Travel. Paste. All copy. Paste. Enter. Oh, that connected up to my previous post. We gotta separate those out. Okay. Jumping over to the Daleman server next. And posting. Boom. To the embed. I'm back up to Angels Online. Posting link. Removing embed. Thank you. Back over to Don somewhere. And then we're going to make sure that we are looking at the correct devices. That device. Perfect. That is the correct one. Go ahead and share the correct screen, which is... Here it is. Right, minimize that. Jump back to here. Close the extra link. Open up OBS again. So now I can see everything. And I think everything is looking good. Perfect. Alright. Hello everyone, welcome to another Artisan stream. Tonight we're reading more Gulliver's Travels, also known as Travels into Various Remote Nations of the World. We are continuing from Chapter 3. Find where Chapter 3 is. We need Part 1, Chapter 3. Here we go, page 31. Alright, so the general goal is to read for about an hour, which should take about 2 chapters, the rate I've been going at. You also noticed in the previous stream there was a big chunk of muted section where I forgot to unmute myself. So at some point, probably tonight, I'm going to go through and edit that out so it's a little easier to watch. And then that's probably the cadence I'll go at these each time. Each new one releases, the previous one will get edited to be a little easier to watch. Anyway, let's get into Chapter 3. The author diverts the emperor and his nobility of both sexes in a very uncommon manner. The diversions of the court of Lilliput described. The author hath his liberty granted him upon certain conditions. My gentleness and good behavior had gained so far on the emperor and his court, and I indeed upon the army and people in general, that I began to conceive hopes of getting my liberty in a short time. I took all the possible methods to cultivate this favorable disposition. The natives came by degrees to be less apprehensive of any danger from me. Oh, hello? Hello, Malachi. I'm about to become mentally advanced. Yes, it is the mentally advanced time. We're reading... you caught the beginning of the stream, so we're just getting into Chapter 3. I would sometimes lie down and let 5 or 6 of them dance on my hand, and at last the boys and girls would venture to come and play at hide-and-seek in my hair. I had now made good progress in understanding and speaking their language. The emperor had a mind one day to entertain me with several of the country shows, wherein they exceeded all nations I have known, both for dexterity and magnificence. I was diverted with none so much as that of the rope dancers, performed upon a slender white thread extended about 2 foot and 12 inches from the ground, upon which I shall desire liberty, upon which I shall desire liberty, with the reader's patience, to enlarge a little. Huh? Oh, this is the longest ad break of all time. Yeah. So, hello, welcome, Space Maniac. Yes, I used to do reading on ad breaks. That became annoying to have to do. So I now am doing it as its own separate stream. And welcome. This diversion is only practiced by those persons who are candidates for great employments and high favor at court. They are trained in this art from their youth, and are not always of noble birth or liberal education. When a great office is vacant, either by death or disgrace, which often happens, 5 or 6 of those candidates petition the emperor to entertain his majesty and the court with a dance on the rope. And whoever jumps the highest without falling succeeds in the office. Very often the chief ministers themselves are commanded to shew their skills, and to convince the emperor that they have not lost their faculty. Flimnap, the treasurer, is allowed to cut a caper on the straight rope, at least an inch higher than any other lord in the whole empire. I have seen him do the Somerset several times together upon a trencher. What is a trencher? Oh, is a plate or platter for cutting meat made of metal, wood, or earthenware. Oh, I see. I have seen him do the Somerset several times together upon a trencher fixed on the rope, which is no thicker than a common pack-thread in England. My friend Reldrezel, principal secretary for private affairs, is, in my opinion, if I am not partial, the second after the treasurer. The rest of the great officers are much upon a par. These diversions are often attended with fatal accidents, whereof great numbers are on record. I myself have seen 2 or 3 candidates break a limb, but the danger is much greater when the ministers themselves are commanded to shew their dexterity. For by contending to excel themselves and their fellows, they strain so far that there is hardly one of them who hath not received a fall, and some of them 2 or 3. I was assured that a year or 2 before my arrival, Flimnap would have infallibly broke his neck, if one of the king's cushions that accidentally lay on the ground had not weakened the force of his fall. There is likewise another diversion, which is only shewn before the emperor and empress and first minister, upon particular occasions. The emperor lays on a table 3 fine silken threads of 6 inches long. One is blue, the other red, and the third green. These threads are proposed as prizes for those persons whom the emperor hath a mind to distinguish by a particular mark of his favor. The ceremony is performed in his majesty's great chamber of state, where the candidates are to undergo a trial of dexterity, very different from the former, and such as I have not observed the least resemblance of in any other country of the old or the new, in the old or the new world. The emperor holds a stick in his hands, both ends parallel to the horizon, while the candidates advance one by one, sometimes leap over the stick, sometimes creep under it backwards and forwards several times, according as the stick is advanced or depressed. Sometimes the emperor holds one end of the stick and his first minister the other. Sometimes the minister has it entirely to himself. Whoever performs his part with most agility and holds out the longest in leaping and creeping is rewarded with the blue-colored silk. The red is given to the next and green to the third, which they all wear girt twice around the middle, and you see few great persons about his court who are not adorned with one of these girdles. The horses of the army, and those of the royal stables, having been daily led before me, were no longer shy, but would come up to my very feet without starting. The riders would leap them over my hands as I held it on the ground, and one of the emperor's huntsmen, upon a large courser, took my foot, shoe and all, which was indeed a prodigious leap. I had the good fortune to divert the Emperor one day after a very extraordinary manner. I desired he would order several sticks of 2 foot high, and the thickness of an ordinary cane, to be brought me. Whereupon his Majesty commanded the master of his woods to give directions accordingly. And the next morning 6 woodsmen arrived with as many carriages drawn by 8 horses to each. I took 9 of these sticks and fixed them firmly in the ground in a quadrangular figure, 2 foot and a half square. I took 4 other sticks and tied them parallel at each corner, about 2 foot from the ground. I then fastened my handkerchief to the 9 sticks that stood erect, and extended it on all sides till it was as tight as the top of a drum, and the 4 parallel sticks rising about 5 inches higher than the handkerchief, served as ledges on each side. When I had finished my work, I desired the Emperor to let a troop of his best horses, 24 in number, come and exercise upon this plain. His Majesty approved of the proposal, and I took them up one by one in my hands, ready mounted and armed, with the proper officers to exercise them. As soon as they got in order, they divided into 2 parties, performed mock skirmishes, discharged blunt arrows, drew their swords, fled and pursued, attacked and retired, and in short, discovered the best military discipline I ever beheld. The parallel sticks secured them and their horses from falling over stage. Hello! Who's that? I heard someone join. Hello,
Me.
Cheese.
Hello.
Yes, we are reading Gulliver's Travels. We are on chapter 3.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Let's see. And the Emperor was so much delighted that he ordered this entertainment to be repeated several days, and once was pleased to be lifted up and given the word of command, and give the word of command, and with great difficulty persuaded even the Empress herself to let me hold her in her close chair, within 2 yards of the stage, from whence she was able to take a full view of the whole performance. It was my good fortune that no ill accident happened in these entertainments. Only once a fiery horse that belonged to one of the captains, pawing with its hoof, struck a hole in my handkerchief, and his foot slipped. He threw his rider and himself, but I immediately relieved them both, and covering the hole with one hand, I set down the troop with the other, in the same manner as I took them up. The horse that fell was strained in the left shoulder, but the rider got no hurt, and I repaired my handkerchief as well as I could. However, I would not trust the strength of it any more in such dangerous enterprises. About 2 or 3 days before I was set at liberty, as I was entertaining the court with these kinds of feats, there arrived an express to inform His Majesty that some of his subjects riding near the place where I was first taken up had seen a great black substance lying on the ground, very oddly shaped, extending its edges round as wide as His Majesty's bedchamber, and rising up in the middle as high as a man, that it was no living creature, and they at first apprehended, for it lay on the grass without motion, and some of them had walked round it several times, that by mounting upon each other's shoulders, they'd got to the top, which was flat and even, and stamping upon it, they found it was hollow within, that they humbly conceived it might be something belonging to the Man Mountain, and if His Majesty pleased, they would undertake to bring it with only 5 horses. I presently knew what they... Sorry. My eyes just need to adjust for a second. I presently knew what they meant, and was glad at heart to receive this intelligence. It seemed upon my first reaching the shore after our shipwreck, I was in such confusion that before I came to the place where I went to sleep, my hat, which I had fastened with a string to my head while I was rowing, and had stuck on all the time I was swimming, fell off after I came to land, the string, as I conjecture, breaking by some accident which I never observed, but thought my hat had been lost at sea. I entreated His Imperial Majesty to give orders it might be brought to me as soon as possible, describing to him the use and the nature of it, and the next day the wagoners arrived with it, but not in a very good condition. They had bored 2 holes in the brim within 1.5 inches of the edge, and fastened 2 hooks into the holes. These hooks were tied by a long cord to the harness, and thus my hat was dragged along for about half an English mile. But the ground in that country being extremely smooth and level, it received less damage than I expected. 2 days after this adventure, the Emperor, having ordered that part of his army which quarters in and about his metropolis to be in readiness, took a fancy of diverting himself in a very singular manner. He desired I would stand like a colossus, with my legs as far asunder as I conveniently could. He then commanded his generals, who was an old experienced leader and a great patron of mine, to draw up the troops in close order and march them under me. The foot by 24 in abreast, and the horses by 16, with drums beating, colors flying, and pikes advanced. This body consisted of 3,000 foot and 1,000 horse. His Majesty gave orders, upon pain of death, that every soldier in his march should observe the strictest decency with regard to my person, which, however, could not prevent some of the younger officers from turning up their eyes as they passed under me. And, to confess the truth, my breeches were at that time in so ill a condition that they afforded some opportunities for laughter and admiration. He's got a hole in his pants. I had sent so many memorials and petitions for my liberty that His Majesty at length mentioned the matter first in the cabinet, and then in the full council, where it was opposed by none, except ArtisanBubblegum, who was pleased, without any provocation, to be my mortal enemy. But it was so carried against him by the whole board, and confirmed by the Emperor, that Minister was Galbet, or Admiral of the Realm, very much in his master's confidence, and a person well versed in affairs, but of a morose and sour complexion. However, he was at length persuaded to comply, but prevailed that the articles and conditions upon which I should be set free, and to which I must swear, should be drawn up by himself. These articles were brought to me by ArtisanBubblegum in person, attended by 2 under-secretaries and several persons of distinction. After they were read, I was demanded to swear to the performance of them, first in the manner of my own country, and afterwards in the method prescribed by their laws, which was to hold my right foot in my left hand, and to place my middle finger of my right hand on the crown of my head, and my thumb on the tip of my right ear. But because the reader may perhaps be curious to have some idea of the style and manner of expression, next page. Jack Black does not show up. I actually have not gotten around to watch that version of Gulliver's Travels yet. Colossus. Yeah, actually, Gulliver's the Colossus, I guess. I should watch it, but as far as I'm aware, it only covers Lilliput, which is my main gripe for basically all other Gulliver's Travels adaptations. The one adaptation that I like... Yeah, it's several... So the actual title, yeah. The actual title is, actually I got it pulled up on Twitch, is travels into several remote nations of the world. It's not one remote nation, it's several remote nations. There's one adaptation that's really good. He goes to most of the places, but not all the places. It's with Ted Danson, and I forget what year it was. Actually, I'll look that up real quick. Type in here. Gulliver's Travels, Ted Danson. 1996. Yes, it was originally released on VHS, and it was such a long movie. It was a 2-part set. You had 2 VHSs. It was that long. And then
O'Toole's in it.
Peter O'Toole. Yeah. Wait, who's that?
That's Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia. Peter O'Toole. Oh, him. What did he play? Was he the... No, he's the Emperor, right? In Gulliver's Travels. I think he played the Emperor of... Yeah, he was the Emperor of Lilliput. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, go watch Gulliver's Travels 1996 with Ted Danson. That is the most complete adaptation I have ever seen. They do take some creative liberties, as I've now realized reading the book. But it's very good. I watch it like once a year.
I take it that in the original, he's not unlike the Jack Black version. He's not a travel journalist. He's not a travel blogger who needs to write up.
No, he's a doctor. So Gulliver, Lemuel Gulliver, or Gulliver I don't know. I can't remember which was his first. Yeah, it's Gulliver Lemuel. Lemuel is his last name. Anyway, he's a surgeon. So he grew up and then went to school for being a doctor, and then he was in London for a while, and then his master doctor who was sending him patients died, and then no one else really liked him very much, so he wasn't making money. So he moved back out to the country, still wasn't making a whole lot of money. And in his youth, when he was learning to be a doctor, he was also going out on boats as a boat doctor, or a doctor on a boat. So he went and did that because he knows it's good money. And then at one point, he was on a journey, and then his boat basically got torn in half, and then he ends up in Lilliput. So that's how he ends up in this whole situation. Yeah. I really don't want to go watch the Jack Black one. I like Jack Black. I like the things I've seen him in, at least his older work anyway. But I know that I'm going to be frustrated with the adaptation because it's just not going to be up to my standards. But anyway.
Are you telling me that in the original they don't have a musical number where they resolve the war by singing "War," the song like the "War"? What is it good for song?
Oh no, we haven't got to that part here yet, but they do. I don't know about the movie, but yeah, he does take over the. Shoot, what was the other country? I forget the name of the other country in Lilliput. Lilliput's, enemies. But yeah, he does not want to kill them, basically. He opposes the war. He resolves it, but he opposes the war. Anyway, we'll get to that. Let's see, where were we?
But there's not a musical number where they all sing "War." What is it good for?
No, there's not that specific musical number. There are musical numbers at certain points.
Oh.
I think in the book it will be described, but in the Ted Danson movie, was there? Yes, there was musical numbers in the Ted Danson movie. Cool. Anyway, let's get back into this. Start at the beginning of that sentence. Oh, this was a very long sentence. We'll just start in the couple words into what I already read. Some idea of the style and manner of expression peculiar to that people. As well as to know the articles upon which I recover my liberty, I have made a translation of the whole instrument, word for word, as near as I was able, which I here offer to the public. Golbasto mamaren evlame Gerdilo Shefin Muli Uli Gui, most mighty emperor. So this is his name. The name of the emperor is the full name of the emperor. Golbasto Momaren Evlame Gerdilo Shefin Muli Uli Guli, most mighty emperor of Lilliput, delight and terror of the universe, whose dominions extend 5,000 blustrugs, about 12 miles in circumference, to the extremities of the globe, monarch of all monarchs, taller than the sons of men, whose feet press down to the center, and whose head strikes against the sun, at whose nod the princes of the earth shake their knees, pleasant as the spring, comfortable as the summer, fruitful as autumn, dreadful as winter, his most sublime majesty proposeth to the man mountain, likely arrived to our celestial domain, the following articles, which by a solemn oath he shall be obliged to perform. Write the name. First, the Man Mountain shall not depart from our dominions without our license under our great seal. Second, he shall not presume to come into our metropolis without our express order, at which time the inhabitants shall have 2 hours' warning to keep within their doors. Third, the said Mountain shall confine his walks to our principal highroads, and not offer to walk or lie down in a meadow or field of corn. Fourth, As he walks the said roads, he shall take the utmost care not to trample upon the bodies of any of our loving subjects, their horses or carriages, nor take any of our said subjects into his hands without their own consent. Fifth, if an express requires extraordinary dispatch, the Man Mountain shall be obliged to carry in his pocket the messenger and horse a 6 days' journey once in every moon, and return the said messenger back, if so required, safe to our imperial presence. Sixth, he shall be our ally against our enemies in the island of Blefuscu. Blefuscu, that's who they are. That's our enemies, or the enemies of Lilliput, anyway. And do his utmost to destroy their fleet, which is now prepared to invade us. Seventh, that the said Man Mountain shall, at his times of leisure, be aiding and assisting to our workmen in helping to raise certain great stones towards covering the wall of the Imperial Park and other our royal buildings. Eighth, that the said Man Mountain shall, in 2 moons' time, deliver in an exact survey of the circumference of our domains by a computation of his own paces around the coast. Lastly, that upon his solemn oath to observe all the above articles, the said Man Mountain shall have a daily allowance of meat and drink sufficient for the support of 1,724 of our subjects, with free access to our royal person and other marks of our favor, given at the palace of Blefaborak, the 12th day and the 91st moon of our reign. I swore and subscribed to these articles with great cheerfulness and content, although some of them were not as honorable as I could have wished, which proceeded wholly from the malice of Skyresh Bolgalam, the High Admiral, whereupon my chains were immediately unlocked, and I was at full liberty. The Emperor himself, in person, did me the honor to be by at the whole ceremony. I made my acknowledgments by prostrating myself at His Majesty's feet, but he commanded me to rise, and after many gracious expressions, which to avoid the censure of vanity I shall not repeat, he added that he hoped I should prove a useful servant, and well deserve all the favors he had already conferred upon me, or might do for the future. The reader may please to observe that in the last article of the recovery of my liberty, the Emperor stipulated to allow me a quantity of meat and drink sufficient for the support of 1,724 Lilliputians. Some time after, asking a friend at court how they came to fix on that determinate number, he told me that His Majesty's mathematicians, having taken the height of my body by the help of a quadrant, and finding it to exceed theirs in the proportions of 12 to 1, they concluded from the similarity of their bodies that mine must contain at least 1,724 of theirs, and consequently would require as much food as was necessary to support that number of Lilliputians, by which the reader may conceive an idea of the ingenuity of that people, as well as the prudent and exact economy of so great a prince. Thus concludes Chapter 3. So with these, I generally plan to read about 2 chapters. It takes me about a half hour, up to a half hour to read a chapter, so I want this to go about an hour long. This is also the time I'm going to take to kind of chill for a bit. If you would like me to keep reading, any tier of sub will add 1 more chapter that I will read. Additionally, there are various subscription benefits you'll notice below the stream. I don't remember the top of my head. I can go over and find them. Let me jump over to that so I can read them real quick. Here we go. All Tier 1 subs, your name will be added to the on-screen pre-roll credits every stream. So at the beginning of stream, when I was doing sound checks and posting links and everything, all Tier 1 subs were displayed then. If you want to opt out of that, you can. Everyone that's Tier 2 or greater will get their suggested gamer book added to the shortlist. So I have, below the channel, I have the games and books that I'm planning to play and read. So I have the current one, the next one, a short list, and then a long list. So if there's no items in the short list, I go to the long list and I pick one out of there to go for to go into the next slot. So if you have something you want in the long list, move to the short list, or if you have something that's not on either list that you want put in the short list, tier 2 subs and above is how you'll get that. Move to there. Of course, I do take suggestions from anyone that if I want to play the game or read the book, we'll go on to the long list, and eventually we'll get to it. Tier 3 subs get a personalized wizard drawn by me for you, and a verbal shout-out during the introduction and credits as part of the sound check and everything. So that's the end of the shilling. All proceeds go towards helping me support my family. So let's get back into it. Chapter 4. Oh, bump to the screen. That back up. There we go. Chapter 4. Mildendo, the metropolis of Lilliput, described. Together with the Emperor's Palace. A conversation between the author and a principal secretary concerning the affairs of that empire. The author's offers to serve the Emperor in his wars. The first request I made after I had obtained my liberty was that I might have license to see Mildendo, the metropolis, which the Emperor easily granted me, but with a special charge to do no hurt, either to the inhabitants or their houses. The people had noticed by the proclamation of my design to visit the town. The wall which encompassed it is 2.5 feet high and at least 11 inches broad, so that a coach and horses may be driven safely round it, and it is flanked with strong towers at 10-foot distance. I stepped over the great western gate and passed very gently and sidling through the 2 principal streets, only in my short waistcoat, for fear of damaging the roofs and eaves of the houses with the skirts of my coat. I walked with the utmost circumspection. Sorry, let me reread that. I walked with the utmost circumspection to avoid treading on any stragglers that might remain in the streets, although the orders were very strict that all persons should keep in their houses at their own peril. The garret windows and tops of houses were so crowded with spectators that I thought in all my travels I had not seen a more populous place. The city is an exact square, each side of the wall being 500 foot long, and 2 great streets which run across and divide it into 4 quarters, are 5 foot wide. The lanes and alleys, which I could not enter, but only viewed them as I passed, are from 12 to 18 inches. The town is capable of holding 500,000 souls. The houses are from 3 to 5 stories, the shops and markets well provided. The Emperor's Palace is in the center of the city, wherein 2 great streets meet it. It is enclosed by a wall 2 foot high and 20 foot distant from the buildings. I had His Majesty's permission to step over this wall, and the space being so wide between that and the palace, I could easily view it on every side. The outward court is a square of 40 foot, and 40 foot and inches 2 other courts. Okay, not a... He's so specific about everything else, and he's just vaguely end inches here. That's weird. Okay, anyway. In the inmost are the royal apartments, which I was very desirous to see, but found it extremely difficult, for the great gates from one square into another were but 18 inches high and 7 inches wide. Now the buildings of the outer court were at least 5 foot high, and it was impossible for me to stride over them without infinite damage to the pile. What do I mean by pile? Buildings? Okay, just a weird word for buildings. Though the walls were strongly built of hewn stone and 4 inches thick, at the same time the Emperor had a great desire that I should see the magnificence of his palace. But this I was not able to do till 3 days after, which I spent in cutting down with my knife some of the largest trees in the royal park, about 100 yards distance from the city. Of these trees I made 2 stools, each about 3 foot high and strong enough to bear my weight. The people having received notice a second time, I went through the city to the palace with my 2 stools in my hands. When I came to the side of the outer court, I stood upon one stool and took the other in my hand. This I lifted over the roof and gently set it down on the space between the first and second court, which was 8 foot wide. I then stepped over the buildings very conveniently from one stool to the other, then drew up the first after me with a hooked stick. By this contrivance I got into the innermost court, and lying down upon my side, I applied my face to the windows of the middle stories, which were left open on purpose, and discovered... Oh, sorry, my eyes are freaking out again. And discovered the most splendid apartments that can be imagined. There I saw the Empress and the young princess in their several lodgings, with their chief attendants about them. Her Imperial Majesty was pleased to smile very graciously upon me, and gave me out of the window her hand to kiss. I shall not anticipate the reader with farther descriptions of this kind, because I reserve them for a greater work, which is now almost ready for the press, containing a general description of his empire, from its first erection through a long series of princes, with a particular account of their wars and politics, laws, learning, and religion, their plants and animals, their peculiar manners and customs, with other matters very curious and useful. My chief design at present being only to relate such events and transactions as happened to the public, or to myself, during my residence of about 9 months in that empire. One morning, about a fortnight after I had obtained my liberty, Rodrezel, Prince... Huh?
Fortnite.
Oh, yes. Fortnight is a word that means 2 weeks. Yeah. I know, the mainstream's a video game now. We'll never get the word back.
Funny word.
Yeah. Let's see, where am I? I'm gonna start this paragraph over. One morning, about a fortnight after I had obtained my liberty, Rodrezel, principal secretary, as they style him, of private affairs, came to my house, attended only by one servant. He ordered his coach to wait at a distance and desired I would give him an hour's audience, which I readily consented to, on account of his quality and personal merits, as well as the many good offices he has done me during my... What is that word? Solicitations. Solicitations. Okay. Why I didn't recognize that word. As well as the many good offices he has done me during my solicitations at court. I offered to lie down that he might the more conveniently reach my ear, but he chose rather to let me hold him in my hand during our conversation. He began with compliments on my liberty, said he might pretend to some merit in it, but, however, added that if I had not been for the present situations of thing at court, perhaps I might not have been obtained it so soon. For, said he, as flourishing a condition as we may appear to be into foreigners, we labor under two mighty evils, a violent faction at home, and the danger of an invasion by a most potent enemy from abroad. As to the first, you are to understand that for about 70 moons past there have been two struggling parties in this empire, under the names of Tramexen and Slamexen, from the high and low heels on their shoes, by which they distinguish themselves. It is alleged indeed that the high heels are most agreeable to our ancient constitution. But however this be, His Majesty hath determined to make use of only low heels in the administration of the government, and all offices in the gift of the crown, as you cannot but observe, and particularly that His Majesty's imperial heels are lower, at least by a drurr, than any of his court. Drurr is a measure about the 14th part of an inch. The animosity between these two parties runs so high, so high that they will neither eat nor drink nor talk with each other. We compute the Tramexen, or high heels, to exceed us in number, but the power is wholly on our side. We apprehend His Imperial Highness and the heir to the crown to have some tendency towards the high heels. At least we can plainly discover... one of his heels higher than the other, which gives him a hobble in his gait. Now, in the midst of these intestine disquiets... okay. We are threatened with an invasion from the island of Blefuscu, which is the other great empire of the universe, almost as large and powerful as His Majesty. For as to what we have heard you affirm, that there are other kingdoms and states in the world, inhabited by human creatures as large as yourself, our philosophers are in much doubt, and would rather conjecture that you dropped from the moon or one of the stars, because it is certain that 100 mortals of your bulk would in short time destroy all the fruits and cattle of His Majesty's dominions. Besides, our histories of 6,000 moons make no mention of any other regions that the two great empires of Lilliput and Blefuscu. Any other regions than the two great empires of Lilliput and Blefuscu, which two mighty powers have, as I was going to tell you, been engaged in most obstinate war for 36 moons past. It began upon the following occasion. It is allowed on all hands that the primitive way of breaking eggs, before we eat them, was upon the larger end. But His present Majesty's grandfather, while he was a boy, going to eat an egg, and breaking it according to the ancient practice, happened to cut one of his fingers. Whereupon the emperor, his father, published an edict, commanding all his subjects, upon great penalties, to break the smaller end of their eggs. The people so highly resented this law, that our histories tell us there has been 6 rebellions raised on the account, wherein one emperor lost his life, and another his crown. These civil commotions were constantly fomented by the monarchs of Blefuscu, and when they were quelled, the exiles always fled for the refuge of that empire. It is computed that 11,000 persons have, at several times, suffered death, rather than submitted to break their eggs at the smaller end. Many hundred large volumes have been published upon this controversy, but the books of the Big Endians have been long forbidden, and the whole party rendered incapable by law of holding employments. During the course of these troubles, the emperors of Blefuscu did frequently expostulate by the ambassadors, accursing us of making a schism in religion, by offending against a fundamental doctrine of our great prophet Lustrog, in the 54th chapter of the Brendekral, which is their Alcoran. This, however, is thought to be a mere strain upon the text, for the words are these: that all true believers shall break their egg at the convenient end, and which is the convenient end. We'll reread that to make it clear where the delineations are. This, however, is brought to be a mere strain upon the text, for the words are these: that all true believers shall break their eggs at the convenient end. End quote. And which is the convenient end, seems, in my humble opinion, to be left to every man's conscience, or at least in the power of the chief magistrate to determine. Now, the Big Endians exiles have found so much credit in the Emperor of Blefuscu's court, and so much private assistance and encouragement from their party here at home, that a bloody war hath been carried on between the two empires for 36 moons, with various success, during which time we have lost 40 capital ships, and a much greater number of smaller vessels, together with 30,000 of our best seamen and soldiers, and the damage received by the enemy is reckoned to be somewhat greater than ours. However, they have now equipped a numerous fleet, and are just preparing to make a descent upon us, and His Imperial Majesty, placing great confidence in your valor and strength, hath commanded me to lay this account of his affairs before you. I desire the secretary to present my humble duty to the emperor, and to let him know that I thought it would not become me, who was a foreigner, to interfere with parties, but I was ready, with the hazard of my life, to defend his person and the state against all invaders. That concludes chapter 4. Yes, that's... Oh no! AI viewers! We don't consent to AR viewers on this channel. Report. Where's it? Scams. That is the end of the chapter.
Is that like it for the stream or?
possibly the end of the stream. I'm blocking this bot real quick. Okay, bot has been blocked. All right. I'm not noticing any new subscriptions during this stream. So that will be the end of the stream unless we get a new sub. So that was 2 chapters. Looks like we actually ended up about 15 minutes early, but I know that the reading an additional chapter is going to take me probably another half hour, so I don't think we'll get it done within the hour. So we'll look at ending it there. Yeah. I hope that you all enjoyed your cultural edification with Artisan. That has been Travels into Several Nations of the World by Jonathan Swift, also known as Gulliver's Travels. I try to stream this. I'll be trying to stream 1 hour or 2 chapters of this, whichever we reach first, every night, every weeknight at about 11 p.m. PST. If you'd like me to keep going, gift sub of any tier will be another chapter. All proceeds go towards keeping a roof over our head. Thank you everyone for showing up and participating. Let me go and get that credits text pulled up again. There we go. We can see on our stream all of our current subscribers. Thank you all for your support. You help keep a roof over my family's head. You help us make more content like this, so on and so forth. Thank you. I think that's it. Do you have anything you want to add, Cheese, who is happened to be here?
Not really. Actually, when you finish stream, could you disconnect me from the call just because I've jumped into bed? And
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my god, I have so many options. Let me first click on you, and then there we go. I don't want to block you. That's not what I want to do. Here we go, disconnect. Boom. Alright, he's gone. Goodbye, Cheese. Yeah, thank you all for coming. That's all I've got to go, so we're going to wrap up here. So have fun, be safe.